it on? Hello, everyone. Before we get started, I just want to make sure everyone's here for the job fair, right? Yes. Okay. So welcome to the comedy show at the Slate Mill. A few housekeeping rules before we get started. First of all, thank you to Slate Mill for hosting us. Thank you. Service is at the bar, not the tables. Keep the tips rolling, they'll keep the drinks flowing, we'll all be happy. Second of all, thank you to Turn 2 Entertainment for putting on the show. Thank you to the fellow comics who you'll hear from tonight. Thank you to them. And finally, thank you to all of you for coming out so early on a Friday night to support in-person comedy. Because in truth, without you here, I would be at home just telling my jokes to my family, only for my wife to say, Eric, you're not that funny. So I appreciate you coming out. Also, silence your cell phones, please. And then finally, seriously, no heckling. I speak for all of the comics when I say our self-esteem is so low to begin with, that will just throw us over the edge. So, no heckling. Oops, you're trying to bring someone over. Okay, so my name is Eric Snader. I'm going to be your host for the evening. Welcome. I promise you, I am going to be probably your cleanest comic of the night. And when I say clean, what I mean is I'm not going to talk about drug use, because at this point I have to start taking drugs in order to joke about it, and I'm just too old for a new hobby. So no drugs, that's number one. Number two, I'm not going to talk about hardcore sex. You all don't want to hear about my sex life, do you? No, my sex life is kind of sad. My sex life is kind of like my comedy. It lasts 3 to 5 minutes. I usually bomb. And by the time I'm done, I've earned just enough money for gas. I asked my wife one time if she'd be interested in doing some role play, you know, to spice things up in the bedroom. She said, definitely. But it didn't quite work out the way I had thought. She had me play a patient, and she played my doctor who wouldn't take my insurance. And I said to her, I don't pay for sex, not even in co-pays. And that's when she started charging me cancellation fees. So, didn't work. But my wife's not here tonight. She's a great partner. She's a few years older than me, so she's my cougar, and I'm her squirrel. I'm a little anxious and jumpy, so. Oh man, I just had my annual physical, and my doctor's a little eccentric, so I never know what's going to happen. So this year, he put a lot of objects in my mouth, stuck his fingers up my ass, and handled, I didn't think that was funny, and handled my testicles a little too long. All that before the appetizers came. And I said to him the same thing I say every year. Next year, Doc, can we do this in your office? Yeah, because I'm not a big fan of chilies. Speaking of my wife, I was shopping for her birthday gift recently, and I got so excited because I thought that I had invented a word that I guarantee most of you have never heard. So here's the scene. I was shopping for women's pajamas, and for whatever reason, the people in this stores seemed a little, I don't know, put off by a man asking where the women's pajamas are. And I'm going to buy them, I'm not going to wear them. So I thought, you know what, instead of calling them women's pajamas, I thought, you know what, I'm going to call them vajamas. Yeah. I was so excited. Anyone hear the word pajamas before? Okay, so I Googled it, and you know what? It is a word. It's on Urban Dictionary. And if you've ever been on Urban Dictionary, you know, don't ever go on Urban Dictionary. So here's the definition. Vajamas refers to when a man is either so tired or so drunk that he falls asleep after sex while still inside his female partner. Now, if that didn't make sense to you, let's put it in a sentence. Last night, I was so trashed, I fell asleep in my pajamas. Now, if you're anyone like me, you're wondering, how does that happen, right? Does nobody roll over in bed after sex looking for cigarettes anymore? I mean, come on. Oh, boy. Uh-oh, are you funnier over there than I am? So I recently hit a medical milestone, and without insulting everyone, I'm scanning the crowd, and I'm thinking most of you will know exactly what I'm talking about. I had my first colonoscopy. Yeah, that was exciting. I really didn't do much, but thank you. And my doctor was just a little too excited about the procedure, and at one point I had to say, whoa, doc, slow down, let's get the check and leave Chili's, and then you can get started. Now, in the few minutes you've met me, you've learned something about me. I need to stop meeting my doctors at Chili's. It never ends well. But the procedure itself, it was really easy. I mean, the prep, if you had it, the prep is disgusting, and we're not going to talk about that. Remember, I'm clean. But the procedure was easy, right? They took me back, they made me wear a gown that exposed my whole backside. They knocked me out with anesthesia. While I was knocked out, they probed me anally. And when I woke up, I was a little bit sore, but I had no recollection of anything that had happened. For some of you, that's a Friday night at the Slate Mill. And I got my insurance to pay for it. You're doing it for drinks. But I will say I'm very proud of my colonoscopy because I read my doctor's report and he wrote, quote, patient's response to procedure was excellent. Yeah, I don't know how it could be anything but because I was knocked out with anesthesia, right? But that's the best Yelp review I've ever got. So I'm sticking with it. What I will say, a little too much information though. The next day I woke up and my ass was so sore. I had to do something. Some of you know what I mean. So I hopped on Google. And you know with Google what they do, right? They try to anticipate what you're thinking, what you're looking for. So all I did was type in how to treat sore anus after A, and you know what the first hit was? A massage. Oh my God, it's right, a massage. I don't know what kind of massages y'all are getting. But if my ass is sore after a massage, I'm reporting that to Law & Order SVU. And putting on a comfy pair of pajamas. Boy, so I've been traveling a lot lately. I love going to open mics. This is a little aside because a lot of the comics will get up and say, oh, I live out of a van, I'm living out on a friend's couch. I'm one of the few comics who has a good paying day job. Believe it or not, you don't know me, but I actually work as a psychologist. And because I'm a psychologist, I get a lot of mail for webinars and such. I recently got one on hoarding behavior. Hoarding. I threw that in a pile with the others I'm sitting. The one I can't stop thinking about is the one on OCD, but I won't talk about that. So I've been traveling for work, and because I've been in lots of different airports, different cities, and you see a lot of funny things, right? I mean, first of all, why are there so many emotional service dogs in the airport? Right? You ever notice that? Some of them are like fluffy poodles and pit bulls. They made me so nervous, I didn't want to get on the plane. And I'm not sure that's the way it's supposed to work out. I was on one flight, and there was a man sitting across the aisle from me, holding his little girl. And at one point, we made eye contact, We smiled at each other. He said, holding my little girl is the best sensation I've ever felt. Poor guy has never had an orgasm, okay? One of the places I went to was Orlando, and I'm probably going to lose half the crowd. I hate Orlando. I'm sorry. Thank you. The reason I don't like Orlando, there are two reasons. I'll get to both of them. The first reason is that I'm not a fan of Disney World. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll tell you why though, okay? First of all, everyone on the plane is talking about the magic of Disney, the magic of Disney. I'm very frugal, we'll get to that later. The only magic I saw was how fast my money and my patience disappeared. That was magic. I mean, everything is so expensive at Disney, right? Did you know that if you want to have breakfast with princesses, you have to pay extra? Extra money to have breakfast with princesses. I'm sorry, but if I want to eat breakfast with princesses, I'm going to hang out with my brother and his guy friends for free. Now, you don't know my brother and his guy friends, but they are princesses with really dark pasts. And much like Disney princesses, one kiss from Prince Charming and they're all up. That's what we call a thinker. The second reason I'm not a big fan of Orlando, and I can say this with you all, my parents live there. My parents are older, they're Jewish, so Florida is their promised land. I was telling Maggie, this is my target audience, like whites, living in front of, where are we? Fredricksburg. But anyway, my parents live in Orlando, they're older, they live in an active over 55 community. Has anyone ever heard of the Villages? Yes. Oh yes. Okay, so when I say the Village is active over 55, you know what I mean. Sexually transmitted diseases. Ask an old woman with dementia how to spell chlamydia. That's fun. But I don't know about you, but the idea of old people having sex, I don't want to picture it. In fact, I don't want to hear an old lady tell me she's coming unless she's headed my way with cookies. And not the gluten-free type either. But my parents love it, and that's all that matters. They have activities for everyone. And everything's adapted for old people. So for example, if you want to do yoga, you can stand, you can sit, downward facing dog, almost dead dog. At every level, you can do it. Oh boy, so speaking of traveling, cities, I'm a big runner, and I ran with my good friend this morning. My friend's name is Dallas. Dallas was born and raised in Austin. I also have a friend, Austin, who's born and raised in Dallas. Why do Texans do that? I grew up in New Jersey, and I never met anyone named Trenton or Parsippany. Never happened. How funny would that be, though? What's your name? Hoboken Jones, born and raised in Newark. It doesn't happen. And they don't talk that way either. That's sort of like a Texas thing. So I feel like I'm in a safe place. I can reveal a secret of mine. I am a huge Cardi B fan. Any Cardi B fans here? That's exactly the response I expected. I'm guessing you're not Cardi B fans. This is more of a Cartier fan group, right? That's a thinker also. That joke really kills with rich people. Cartier? This is more middle class. Anyway, so this joke may not work, but I'm a huge Cardi B fan, and I always have her songs in my head, which is probably better that they stay in my head, right? Because if you've heard her songs, if there's one person who should never be caught singing her songs, it's me, right? I don't fit her typical fan demographic. Older, white, Jewish. And I get worried, like what if, God forbid, I'm singing their songs and I don't realize it's out loud, and somebody wants to know what I said? I'm gonna look them right in the eye, and I'm gonna say, I said, my face bomb, ass tight, rack, stack of shag, tight, jewelry on me, flashlight, I've been lit since last night, okay, that's where this worked out. Thank you. And can I tell you, I have no idea what any of that means. Just that broke boys don't deserve no pussy, I know that's right. And do you know how long it took me to learn those words? And I could have taken the easy way out, and I could have just gone for a Gwen Stefani song, because with Gwen Stefani, you just have to know how to spell the word bananas. But I will admit, though, Cardi B has a badass attitude. I only wish I had a Cardi B attitude inside, instead of a Woody Allen, Larry David outside. Those are two old whiny Jewish men, aren't they? And I can say that, don't feel awkward, I'm Jewish. I told you that already. Half of you already knew. I saw the looks I got when I checked you in. The other half is thinking, is that what you all look like? This is what we look like. And by the time the show's over, you'll see what we look like leaving Fredricksburg in the dark. But I really can't hide, because I've got this big Jewish nose. I talk in this sing-songy voice. I talk as if everything's a question. That wasn't a question. And that would drive my teachers nuts when I was younger. They'd say, Eric, are you asking me, or are you telling me? And I'd always say, I'm telling you? Which is a very Jewish way of talking. But you know what I have a lot of respect for? And I'll end on this. I have a lot of respect for Catholics. Any Catholics in the house? Wow, okay. Fredricksburg is different, because usually when I ask that, it's very quiet. Because the Catholics are looking for the tip jar. They don't want to get caught. But I have a lot of respect for Catholics. Two reasons. One is because you all have to do confession. And if I understand that correctly, I would have to confess my deepest, darkest sins to a man who wears a long, flowy robe and who hangs out in dimly lit closets? I don't think I'm the one who needs to confess. But worst of all for me would be sitting in church looking at Jesus on the cross. That would make me sad. So sad that his abs are way more developed than mine. I mean, mark my words. That is going to be the new exercise craze, and I can see it now. I lost 75% of my body just hanging on the cross. Results not typical and may vary. Oh, you think that's bad? You know what I'm going to call it? CrossFit. Thank you for listening to my set. I'm Eric Snader.